When I was a little girl, my mom told me a story that shook me to my core. In 1975, my mom was 6 months pregnant. Although she lived with her mother, she would often visit with her best friend. During these stays, she would usually end up spending the night. On one particular night she was visiting her friend, she found herself alone because her friend had to work a late shift. This creeped her out because her friend told her about her aunt dying in this very same house. To keep her mind busy, she decided to watch TV. She starts to hear the sound of a baby in the room down the hall. Startled by this, she turns the TV off and she only hears silence. Although fearful, to put her mind at ease, she decided to investigate. As she began to walk down the hallway, she has an eerie feeling that something brushed up against her, causing the hair on her arms to stand up. But nothing was there. As she entered the room, she noticed an open window, which gives her some relief because it could explain where the noise was coming from. She shut the window. As she was leaving the room, she noticed an open drawer, and in it she finds an old news clipping that she begins to read. Human remains found in a home on Elms Lane has been identified as a 22-year-old woman who had been last seen 2 weeks ago. The Bladen County Medical Examiner's Office identified the remains as Shirley Williams, who was 9 months pregnant at the time. After a police investigation, it was discovered that it was a home invasion gone wrong that resulted in a homicide. After reading this, she realizes what really happened to her friend's aunt. Distraught, she finds her way back to the couch in front of the TV. This only made matters worse as the light from the TV casted human-like shadows on the wall. She convinced herself it was all in her head and decides to go to sleep. Because she was pregnant, it was more comfortable to lie on her back. Being that the house was cold and damp, this caused her to drift in and out of sleep. Too tired to get up and turn up the heat, she pulled a thin sheet over her head. This must have worked because she went into a deep sleep, but not deep enough because she heard the kitchen window break. She knew to lie still and to keep the covers pulled over her head. She heard footsteps that were too heavy to be her friend's. Out of the dark, she heard a man's voice.
I don't want to hurt you. I just came for the money.
And out of the darkness came another voice.
Don't come any closer. I have a weapon. I don't want to have to hurt you or the baby. What are you?
Besides the intruder, it was becoming clear that a presence was in the house. Confused by what she was hearing, my mother rose from the bed and began to slowly approach the room where the voices were coming from. As she entered the living room, she saw a man being lunged into the air by an unseen force as he belted out an ungodly scream. As he remained suspended in the air, she looks into the intruder's eyes that was filled with horror as his face begins to distort. She screams. He drops the knife as his body slams to the floor. At this point, all my mother saw was his red shoes as he was being dragged out of the house, kicking and screaming. Three months later, I was born.